Hi there. Welcome to my channel. If this is the first time you're watching this channel, please, before you go, subscribe. When you subscribe, you will get notifications each time we put forward new videos. That said, let us go back to Yaoundé. I know that the dust raised by the rejection of Professor Maurice Kamto's candidacy by the Constitutional Council is yet to settle. But it was evident that they were going to do so. Very evident. Because the Constitutional Council, like Elekan, is just a tool in the hands of government. Now, let us go to what is happening behind the scene. You see, when you hurt somebody and the person doesn't react, the person doesn't say a word, the person stays mute, incommunicado, be very careful. Be very careful, because what that person is planning will take you off guard and will hit you so hard that you will not even know how to recover from it. So, the government of Ferdinand Gongo and Atanganji at the moment should be very, very careful. Something is happening. Remember that there were some opposition parties that celebrated Professor Maurice Kamto's rejection. Yeah, they celebrated for one reason. Now, there are some militants of the Social Democratic Front Party, the SDF, that I had a chat with, and they were telling me it serves him right. Do you know why? It's because Jean-Michel Ninche, who is an ally of Professor Maurice Kamto, was once a member of the Social Democratic Front Party, the SDF, and believe you me, Jean-Michel Ninche is an opposition MP, that's member of parliament par excellence. He is a firebrand opposition member of parliament. I can count the number of times this guy has taken government minister to task in parliament, leaving them perplexed and speechless. Now, what is happening behind the scene is that it is so surprising that just how many days, less than 48 hours after the rejection of Professor Maurice Kamto's candidacy by the Constitutional Council, there are members of the opposition party and also leaders of opposition parties that are already in contact with members of the inner circle of Professor Maurice Kamto, asking for him to come to their aid and be part of their team to help kick out President Biya. Do you see how egocentric, how self-centered, how selfish, not minding others these people are? It is ridiculous. But you see, there is one thing I want you to understand about the forthcoming presidential election in Cameroon. Do you know why the number of people who have registered for this presidential election remains unprecedented? We've never had this number of Cameroonians register for a presidential election. It's because the Cameroon Renaissance movement of Professor Maurice Kamto and the man himself have done an amazing job to get Cameroonians to believe again in the politics of our country, but not the democracy and rule of law of our country. And so there are militants who are threatening to tear their voters' card. There is no need. There is no need, because something is in the pipeline. There is always a plan B. Professor Maurice Kamto is a very smart politician. There is always a plan B. You see his silence? Don't take it for weakness. Trust me on this one. So, in the days ahead, leading to October 12th, something is going to happen. And when it happens, the needed change shall come to Cameroon. Professor Maurice Kamto is a statesman. He's not a politician. There is a difference between a politician and a statesman. A statesman thinks about the next generation. That's why they come up with some very fine plans for the development of the country in order to prepare a better country for the next generation. While a politician thinks only about the next election. And so, what we are observing is something that will answer so many questions in Cameroon. Professor Maurice Kamto is still needed if there must be change in Cameroon. And that is why these opposition leaders who, by chance, will be running for the 2025 presidential election are already contacting members of his inner circle to see how they can get through him, how they can get through them to him, for him to come on board. But like Professor Maurice Kamto will always say, he is open to a coalition. But a coalition that will lead to a better Cameroon for our children's children. That is where I tell you that he is a statesman. So, in the days ahead, we are going to see if Professor Maurice Kamto will table before those who have contacted him, and even those who have not contacted him, a plan and a strategy to kick out the current government. And if those who are running against Mr. Biya truly identify themselves as opposition leaders, then they should meet at a table of brotherhood and discuss with him. Listen to the plan, which, of course, they must have studied in their quiet moments without coming out to say it. Listen to his strategy, because his strategy is always very good. He knows the government of Mr. Biya like the palm of his hand. He knows it. And that is why he has always been a step ahead of them. But you know, in a country where we have kleptocrats, people with no moral backing, people who are corrupt to the bone, not only the bone, but the marrow, what we see happening in our country is bound to happen. And so, the time has come. Like I said, time will always solve problems. Time is going to expose those so-called opposition parties who are just disguising to work for the government of Mr. Biya. Because I look at all of them. Even in the days of the charismatic leader of the Social Democratic Front Party, John Frondi, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And that is why he failed. Because he couldn't resist the temptation of good life. It's not easy to resist money. And that's why you find these opposition leaders who are going around parading themselves as political peacocks, whereas they know absolutely nothing about opposing a dictator. They know absolutely nothing about opposing a dictator. We are waiting. We are keeping tabs on the activities of the opposition that is to face Mr. Biya in October. And the man who is supposed to kick Mr. Biya out of government, that's Professor Maurice Kamto, ahead of the 2025 October 12th presidential election. We will keep you apprised as the information coming. That's how we'll send it out to you. But know one thing. The information today is that there are opposition leaders there are political parties and their representatives who are going to run for the 2025 presidential election, who have started contacting Professor Maurice Kamto's inner circle to ask if he can come on board, help them, and be part of them to oust the current government. You see? And if Maurice Kamto wants to prove all of you wrong, he can decide not to do so. And we will see the number of Cameroonians who will vote on the 12th. You realize that the 8 million announced will not get up to 4 million voters, because they've done an amazing groundwork and government is aware of it. So we'll keep you posted. Stay with us.